That's what we all thought, 10 days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. But once you get down here, it is maybe strange in that there is maybe a strong divide in that you have these six guys who are used to being on teams that contending for a division, and then you have more than half the room of young, unproven guys who are part of a rebuilding project. So maybe that's strange, but the way that everybody's going about their business, it doesn't really feel awkward. And again, I surely said the same thing, say 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, but it isn't quite as strange as I guess one would think.
Do you have a sense that this team maybe isn't buying into everybody's thoughts that, hey, they have a shot to be better than they think? I mean, there's a lot of veteran players. There's not a lot of differences other than really Bird and Rollins not being here. Other than that, it seems like it's virtually the same team. Do they think that there were instances that prevented them from being better than they were last year?
Well, yeah. Well, listen, first off, any professional athlete, and I was just talking to somebody else that does not play for the Phillies, but is a former major leaguer, and he said this, and it makes sense, and it echoes kind of what Chase Utley said yesterday, is that to be a professional athlete, you never walk into a situation thinking, well, we're going to lose. You
Right.
can never have that mindset. Confidence is so much about how anyone succeeds in really any profession, but in professional sports for sure. They can feed off that confidence and it can make them succeed. So, if you're Cole Hamels, if you're Jonathan Papelbon, you're not walking into this clubhouse. Maybe you felt it a month ago, and when you were uncertain where you were going to be when the season started. But now that you know where you're going to be, you show up and you're like, I'm ready to go to work. You know what I mean? I'm putting in my work now, and come April 6th, we're going to try to win every game that we play. And that's the mindset. And they don't really let what outsiders say affect what they do. And if anything, they use it to motivate themselves. Teams have done that for years, including this team. I'm sure, the Phillies in, say, 2005, 2006 or whatever weren't expected to do a whole lot. And, they probably use that to motivate them. I look at a guy like Shane Victorino. He used to feed off when people would doubt him. And he's not the only person that ever, in athlete or in sports, that ever had that mindset. That's a very popular mindset. When people doubt you, they like to have that fuel them. So I think that's certainly going on here.
Ryan Lawrence is with us, Philadelphia Daily News, covering the Phillies in Clearwater. You have a great piece on Domonic Brown, and he's one of the few young guys who I guess can really turn some things around. And he seemed to kind of talk about that this team has not been on the same page. This is not the Phillies' way the last couple of years. Number one, are you noticing a very different Domonic Brown, and what are some of the things that have changed then if they haven't been on the same page? Because, again, there's a lot of the same guys here for it to just poof, all of a sudden change like that.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, first off, I've only seen Domonic Brown for 2 days. He just got here. So it's really hard to, say that he looks any different or is acting any different. It's too early to kind of – he's always kind of been a positive guy. Kind of like Ryan Howard, just a guy that always sees the positive in things and doesn't, wallow in things. I know certain times he said things that he probably regrets in terms of playing time and that kind of thing. But for the most part, this is a guy that's always pretty positive. But, yeah, in terms of your other question about, is everybody on the same page and that stuff, I think a lot of that had to do that last year was a transition year. And I know the rebuild didn't officially start last year because, the front office still believed that they were going to try to win when they went and signed A.J. Burnett right before spring training and went and got Marlon Bird, that winter. But yeah, but you have to realize it was a transition year because it was a regime change. It was Ryan Sandberg's first year as manager. And so in that sense, I think, it was a learning experience for everybody. And I think Rhino has been very upfront all winter and coming into the spring saying that he wants better, kind of open communication between himself and the players and with his coaches involved too. So there isn't really anything hovering, that he doesn't know about. Like he wants to be tuned in on everything that's going on. And I think maybe that was the case last year where there were some grumblings or there was things going on that festered and that they didn't attack early enough. And maybe it became, maybe it just, again, since they let it linger, bad feelings kind of became contagious. But you know what? That also has to do with winning and losing. I forget which veteran said it, if it was Utley or not, but yesterday. But if he said we had a good clubhouse in 08 and 09 and 2010. Everybody always talked about that. Well, what if we didn't win that year? Does that mean we had a bad clubhouse? I mean, so a lot of times, it's just natural. Guys are going to be in better moods when things are going good. And when things aren't going good, especially when you're expected to do good, it's so much easier to have a quote-unquote bad clubhouse. So, I mean, I think, you're right. Poof, how the things change is a lot of the same people here. But I think it's a different mindset. And I think Sandberg is kind of grabbing the quote-unquote, whatever, your bull by the horns and trying to make sure that everything stays on track.
What's interesting, Ryan Lawrence is with us covering the Phillies in Clearwater for the Philadelphia Daily News, is, their bullpen is pretty good. You're going to have some competition that should be fun to watch in the rotation, at least during spring training games. But it doesn't seem that there's a whole heck of a lot of competition on the offensive side of things. And it seems like they got about 8 guys, and those 8 guys are going to be the guys that are going to have to carry them to score some runs. And it's like, wow, this could be a long summer watching this offense. Or do you think there are some interesting storylines that are about to emerge that maybe we up here aren't really aware of yet?
Well, I would say 7 and not 8. I would say left field is pretty wide open. But yeah, I mean, still 7 of 8 is quite a lot. And, I mean, part of that is you have 3 guys that have long-term contracts. You're not, if Ryan Howard's on this team, it's really going to be hard for them to bench him. I mean, and we all know that it'd probably be better for everyone if they were able to trade him, just because they also have ready-made replacements there. Both Ruff and Franco could play first base, and probably at this stage, do just as good as Howard. And then you have, obviously, Carlos Ruiz catching, and you have Chase Utley at second base. So, there's 4 positions now with left field open, and then 3 with veterans, stuck on them. And then you have the young players that are in the starting lineup that might still be growing as big league players. You have Revere, you have Brown, you have Ashe, and you have Galvis, who obviously has never been a full-time starter in the big leagues. So all 3 of those guys, they're surely not guaranteed to be in those spots in September. They're still young players on the rise. I would say that, of all those guys, Revere is probably the most established, and, I don't really see him going anywhere. But, even though there's not open competition in March, I would say with those guys, in particular that, it's open competition all season. They can have to continue to prove themselves as big league players. They're still in their 20s and are not, proven like some of the older veterans on the team. But, yeah, I mean, that said, there are interesting guys in camp. There's a guy like Franco who could push Ashe, and who could push the Howard situation, if not in the next month, in the next few months after that. Darren Ruff, one of the guys that in left field. I mean, if there's a guy that I could look at right now and say, I really think this guy's going to have a big spring, I think Ruff is as good of a guess to say on any of these guys, because he just has a lot of reason to be motivated to have a big spring. There's a big league job that are open for him. And if he wants it, has a monster spring, it's going to be really hard for them not to put him out there in left field more often than not. Obviously, they have Grady Sizemore that'll get at bats too. But yeah, I mean, so there is some competition. But again, this is what happens in the rebuilding process. It's just not an overnight thing. It's kind of a gradual thing. So yeah, eventually there will be a new first baseman. Eventually, Chase won't be at second base anymore, and Carlos won't be behind the plate. But that's just not. You can't just flip the switch and all the positions change, within one off season.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned Ruff. Their lineup, if you take Ruff not in the lineup, they got a lot of lefties. Again, that's not being talked about quite as much as it has been in the past. But this is another very left-handed, centric lineup where you got Revere, you got Brown, you got Ashe, you got Howard, you got Utley. Again, a lot of left-handers in that lineup. So another. Something that has been discussed a lot more in the past when this team was thought to win games, now when the expectations aren't quite as high. But the first week here...
Yeah, you're not analyzing the lineup quite as much because,
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
But, that first weekend, I guess a lot of people were looking forward to seeing Papelbon and Hamels and all these guys speak. They made it through. Does everything now seem like it's a little bit more normalcy after those guys have kind of spoken and didn't say a whole heck of a lot? So does it seem like the Phillies have kind of exhaled that, hey, we got through that, and now we can just have a little bit of some normalcy here?
Well, who hasn't spoken yet?
Howard, I guess.
That's a new question. Yes. And so that's kind of, it really can't be over yet until, all of them are out of the way. And so, yeah, I mean, I think Ryan, for his own good, instead of having TV cameras hovering over him before and after workouts, and it's probably for his own good just to get it out of the way and just to talk. And I understand that him more than anyone has a lot of uncomfortable topics to talk about, things that were of no fault of his own. I mean, we all know that he isn't the player he was 5 years ago. And a large part of that is his health failed him, and he didn't slam a bat into his Achilles. That's no fault of his own for having the physical ailments. But yeah, his general manager made comments this winter we all know about, and obviously had the lawsuit with his family. So you can kind of understand those are uncomfortable things to have to talk about. But yeah, I still think in order for that phase to turn over to more normalcy, he should probably just get that out of the way and talk. But yeah, for in terms of everybody else, Hamilton's just going about his business, and he has talked. And will he be traded? Will he not be traded? I don't think it's going to happen this spring, but that's probably more something to monitor as we get closer to the trade deadline.
All right, everybody. Ryan Lawrence is in Florida with the Phillies, where obviously not a lot of expectations, but still intriguing storylines, and we'll see when Ryan talks as well. Ryan Lawrence, 21. For more on the Phillies as they get ready to start the full squad workouts the rest of the day and the rest of this month as they start games next week. And then we'll see some battles down there. Ryan, always a pleasure, pal. We'll see you down there soon.
All right, Mike. Have a good one.